Hi everybody, this is Kathleen Campbell again. I have rebranded this channel and now it's called That Tenacious Mom. That is a adjective that has followed me through my life with any endeavor that I have pursued. And right now I am advocating against a lot of the new curriculum changes that have taken place on a state and local level. My son attends Parental Elementary School here in Rutherford, New Jersey, which is in Bergen County. We're about 15 minutes outside of Manhattan. And I have been going through grief with this district since July of this year. And I want to state that how important that is. I have been trying to get information from my district since July of 2021 as it pertains to, initially it was the comprehensive health and physical education curriculum. And the reason for that was because our Governor Murphy passed a new mandate that children in kindergarten are supposed to start learning about reproduction. By 5th grade, they are to know about sexual feelings and masturbation. And that was very concerning to me when a good friend of mine brought it to my attention. So I started in the summertime emailing the district, trying to see what the curriculum changes were, trying to educate myself on the new learning standards that you can find on the New Jersey Department of Education. And for anybody who's interested in learning about the comprehensive health, I'm going to put a link directly to those standards in the comment area or the description of this rather. And feel free to click and look through, educate yourself. It is very concerning what our public school system now thinks that they should be exposing our children to at ages where they really are not mentally prepared for. The scary part is a lot of parents don't even know that this new mandate was passed. They have no idea. And I don't begrudge them. So many families, especially after the pandemic, they're struggling to put food on their table. Truly struggling. And they don't have time to also comb through curriculums and see what the districts are doing. They're trusting that their districts are teaching math, science, social studies, computers, a language. They're trusting that they're still following that same schematic. And then without anyone noticing, they're actually teaching a lot of other things that parents really are not aware of. And I blame the districts. I particularly blame Rutherford School District because they never made a formal announcement to parents letting them know these things. It is in the handbook saying that you can opt out of family portions of the comprehensive health program. But you have to read that to know it. And if you don't even know that the changes were made, then you don't even have the ability to try to look into it and see, does this work for my family? Does it not work for my family? So that was the main issue that happened. Now, fast forward to September, I had opted my son out of the comprehensive health in terms of the family portion. And Principal Joan Carry-On, who is the principal of Pierpont Elementary, due to some of the content that was in my opt-out letter, she also provided additional information on certain laws that were passed. And one of them would be a law that was passed, brace yourself, January 31st of 2019. We're almost at 3 years since this law was passed. And it's for diversity, equity, and inclusion instruction in our classes. So I asked where that was. Principal Carry-On said, oh, it's embedded throughout the curriculum and you could see it on the district website. I couldn't find it. So I kept asking her where. Now, that law is, I'm sorry, I'm not very well prepared. That law is, good Lord, sorry about this. I just have it. I'm just going to pause this a second so I could find it. Hold on. Okay, so I'm back. So the law is NJSA 18:35-4.35 to 4.36. It says a Board of Education shall include instruction on the political, economic, and social contributions of persons with disabilities and lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in an appropriate place in the curriculum of middle school and high school students as part of the district's implementation of the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. Okay, now that comes from the Bergen County Diversity Project, which our Board of Education approved for use as a resource by our teachers in the classrooms. I was not able to find it online when I was searching for it. So Superintendent Hurley eventually sent it to me when I requested. And this is something else that I did not know was being used as a resource because it's not listed on our district webpage showing as part of the curriculum resources. It only shows up in our Board of Education minutes, and it's not in the resources listed as far as I can see underneath social studies, ELA, or any of the other courses. So the fact that you don't even see that as a parent is concerning. It's a red flag to me because, again, it's showing lack of transparency by the district to parents. So if you go to the website, they have all these curriculum toolkits that the teachers can access on disabilities, diversity, LGBTQ. And it's broken down by elementary school grades K through 5, middle school, which is 6 through 8, and high school 9 through 12. And if you go through, I'm certain that you will find certain subject matter that maybe you are questioning if it is appropriate at the age level. And you will question how they are going to actually instruct on that in their classrooms. So in September, when I asked about it, that was the response that I got from Principal Carrion, was it's embedded throughout the curriculum. Fast forward to earlier this week, I then found that I wanted to ask more questions to the principal. And I asked about the different instruction and how it was going to be implemented. She has told me that in addition to the state and county resources that were shared with you, DEI is infused throughout the curriculum, and resources that have been approved through various curriculum can be used in DEI instruction. 6th grade curriculum for ELA and social studies, which are posted online, have a list of resources for DEI instruction that could be used. The curriculum map for ELA highlights some potential activities related to DEI. So I went back and I asked, well, one, I told her that the state of New Jersey has not yet provided guidance or sample lessons to districts. And that is something that I talked about in the very last video that I did on October 31st, which was written in the record by journalist Marianne Korath, called Schools Seeking Guidance to Teach Diversity Combating Bias. Again, January 31st, 2019, this law was passed by Governor Murphy. It's almost 3 years later, and the state still has not provided any guidance to our districts onto the sample lessons, how they should approach it, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. So every district right now basically has autonomy on how they're going to approach that curriculum, but there is nothing saying what you can and cannot do on the state level. It just is this broad blanket of you have to teach this. If you don't see that as a problem, you probably should stop watching this channel right now, because I see that as a problem. There is no clear and transparent way as to how they're going to be incorporating this into our children's education, what our children will be exposed to. I have a problem with that. I know that there are many other like-minded people who also have an issue with the fact that they cannot see the curriculum that is being given to their children. They cannot see the instruction that's being given to their children. Which brings me to my next point. So, October 22nd, and I'm not certain if I talked about this in another video because I don't really go back and watch them. But October 22nd, my son was given a social emotional learning activity in his math class. Now, when you look at the SEL for New Jersey information that kind of guides teachers on how to implement the practices of SEL in relation to, say, math or science or social studies, a lesson on empathy and kindness does not really fit what a lot of that says. It's more about, trying to break down problem solving and math problems, etc. Like, it is in relation to math, but empathy and kindness has nothing to do with math. So that's issue number 1. However, I had asked to see the activity in advance and they gave it to me. And as any parent would, I watched the videos, I looked at the questions, and I sat down with my child and we watched it again together. And I asked him questions. I asked him to answer the questions that were even on the Google form that the teacher created on her own. And we had dialogue. We went back and forth on different perspectives, different scenarios, you know, not just this one-sided information that they're giving. So now I've asked to see the next one, which was to be given today. And I was told, no, you are not allowed to see it anymore. And this comes at the directive of Nora Peck, she works at the Bergen County Department of Education. She's like I guess she's one of the highest in terms of the superintendents and such. I asked Principal Carrion, where is that policy or regulation that says that a parent is not allowed to review activities prior to their children getting them? And now let me just stop right there. Activities. This is not even a graded assignment. You do not need social emotional learning to graduate in the state of New Jersey. It does not affect your high school graduation at all. It is not a mandate. It is, in our district, it's part of a goal, and it's evidently protected underneath the academic freedom policy, although that references curriculum, and they keep telling me this is not a curriculum. So I guess it's like a play on words, and I'm not quite certain if it really fits underneath that or not. Unfortunately, I'm not a lawyer, so. But anyway, so they won't give it to me now. They're saying it was at the advice of Nora Peck, which at the advice of her does not mean that I'm legally not allowed to have access to it, or they are legally protected from not giving it to me, right? But that's what they're doing, because it could affect the integrity of the assignment, activity. It's not an assignment. It's not graded. It could affect the integrity of it. So what they're saying to me is, today's lesson was on gratitude. Now, if anybody knows my child, he is a very kind, sympathetic, empathetic person. He is thankful, appreciative. He understands the sacrifices that his family have made for him to be able to be where he is today. And he understands that from the origins of our family on both my side and his father's sides, emigrating to the United States. From mine is primarily from Ireland and Wales and Scotland. His father's side, his great-grandmother escaped Cuba on a raft in the middle of the night to come to America, according to his family, according to his father's family. There was huge sacrifice for our families to get to this country so that they could have a better life for themselves and for their future generations. And right now, the way that I see it is those parental rights and the freedoms that we all have are being slowly taken away. The morals, the values, and the beliefs that we have as a family unit, the fabric of our family, we're being told the way that you teach your child on that is not nearly as important as the way that we teach it. A public school is saying that. Actually, let me correct that. A government school is saying that. And that's because the government is providing federal funding to all of the districts across the nation. And that's why you're seeing a lot of issues where parents are fighting back at the Board of Education meetings against critical race theory, social emotional learning, diversity, equity, and inclusion instruction as well. We're in a very dark place when you as a parent want to see an activity that could affect the perception of your child, his outlook or her outlook, their outlook. We're in a dark place when that happens. Because instead of being taught how to think critically, which is something that I try to do with my son, they're basically telling the children how they have to think. And that does not sit well with me. And I know a lot of people have commented on my other videos saying, social emotional learning is so wonderful. It's so great. I can't understand why anybody in their right mind would be against this. Because they're not being transparent about it. And if they won't even show us an activity that, again, is not even graded to review before our child sees it, so that we're comfortable with what's going on in the classroom, or so that we can have a dialogue with our child with our child or children, there's a problem with that. And if you don't think there's a problem with it, again, this is not the channel for you. Rutherford school systems need to be transparent. And there's one thing that I know is a lot of people in this town do not like to rock the boat, especially when it comes to the school systems. My mother grew up in this school system. She has told me it has been this way since she can recall, where parents didn't really go in and hold teachers accountable, or they didn't question them. They just accepted. That's not the way that I was raised. I was raised to do my own research, to make my own assessments, to think critically about things, to try to see both sides of everything. And right now, the only side I see is that the district is not willing to share what they are doing in the classrooms, what they're exposing our children to, until after they have done it. If that doesn't seem like a problem to you, this is not your channel. It just isn't. There is a good possibility that the curriculums that they are trying to introduce, maybe I won't have an issue with. But I'm not even given the opportunity to review it properly to say if I do or I don't. The resources that they have for a lot of this new curriculum is web links, websites. So that means absolutely any topic on that website the teachers can use. If that doesn't make you a little concerned, I don't know what will. You can go through these websites and you go down hole after hole after hole after hole, and you're like, holy crap. They could teach my kid any of this? And it's allowed? But I don't get a say in if they are teaching that, or I can't give my own feedback. You know, there's a policy in this town that says that they invite parents to participate in the education of their children. And they say, oh, we do that because we have the PTA, we have the parent committee where select people are asked to sit on, not just anybody. I would never be asked to sit on it because I'm not like-minded with their ideology. So, I mean, it's true. You can't say that you look to the community and the stakeholders and the parents and you're inviting them and welcoming them in, but in the next breath, you're saying, no, you cannot review what we're doing. That is what I've been told. And that is a problem for me as a parent. And if it's not a problem for you, again, we are not like-minded individuals, and that is completely fine. I respect everybody's position when it comes to their children. But this is my child, and this is my parental right. I send him to a public school, which a large portion of our taxes pay for. And yet they don't have to be accountable and answer questions. They can make you run in circles constantly, which is exactly what's been happening to me. Nora Peck, I've left multiple messages for her between yesterday and today. She did call me back Wednesday. I couldn't take the phone call at the time. And I have been calling since and still no reply. I've even sent her an email or two and nothing there. So, parents, again, you don't have to agree with me. It's totally fine. But it is important to me to see what my son is being exposed to. And Principal Joan Carrion says no. His teacher, Kristen Dulce, no. And it's shocking to me because I believe I remember her saying that she had a child in a similar age group as my son. Maybe a year younger. And this is how she treats a fellow parent. No, you can't see what I'm doing. I don't know. We're not in a good place. Thankfully, I will say, I'm in New Jersey, and the gubernatorial race just showed us that the tides are changing. More conservative-minded people are coming forward. They're saying enough is enough. These are our children. We get a say in how they're being taught and educated and raised. Problem is, we're not teaching them anymore. We're just telling them how they need to think and feel, and we're taking away from critical time of math, science, social studies, and the like. I am not saying that history does not need to be taught. It damn well does need to be taught. That's how we don't repeat history. But the way that they're going about it is a serious overreach by our government. And I mean, they're funding all these schools across the nation to have social emotional learning, to have diversity, equity, and inclusion, to make changes to the comprehensive health and physical education. And if you don't see a problem with children as early as kindergarten needing to know about reproduction, not your channel. They can't even color in the darn lines, and you want them to understand what reproduction is? It almost feels like they're being groomed, and they're not going to be able to separate what is appropriate and inappropriate if it comes to a predator or human trafficking. All these things can be parlayed off of trying to normalize sexuality at such a young age, where children just they're not mentally ready yet. They're not. And if you think your child is, then by all means, let them be a part of that instruction. But I think, and I believe, and I strongly feel, parents have the right, or should have the right, to be able to say, I'm not comfortable with my child having that kind of education or that kind of instruction. That's what it is. It's instruction on a lot of this stuff. It's being thrown down their throats. And if it makes me uncomfortable as an adult, then the children are just going to look at it as like, this is normal, this is acceptable, this is okay. That's a way that they become indoctrinated. And I'm a huge conspiracy theorist. I could go down that hole with you for hours. I've gone down that hole for hours with other people, and I just don't have the energy for it today. But there is something wrong with the system in America right now, and there is something definitely wrong with the Rutherford Public School System. Superintendent Jack Hurley does not hold his staff accountable. He does not require them to answer questions when a parent comes to them. And your only recourse is to go to a Board of Education meeting where he does not let the other board members speak to you. He does all the speaking. I don't know what that tells you, but that tells me something. So thanks for listening. I'm sorry that I went on so long. I tend to ramble. I'm very passionate about this right now. I've been protecting my son since he was a baby, and things have happened in his life that he has a wonderful life now as a result of the steps that I have taken. And he's turning into a sound young man. And that has to do with the family that is before him and the influencers that surround him. So many role models are there for him. And I trust that he's turning into a kind, empathetic boy. He does not see color. He does not see those things. But the more that these school systems want to start pushing that in their face, color and this and that, you're going to create a divide instead of people coming together. And I thought that was part of the problem, was the divide. But we're just going to keep wedging it in. So with that said, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thank you for listening. You don't need to agree. Again, it's okay. Either way, I'm still going to include some of the links of the things that I talked about down below. The Bergen County Diversity Project. Peruse it. Get familiar with what's going on, especially if you live in New Jersey. Educate yourself. If you do not know what's happening, you cannot protect your children. And, they'll do whatever they want to do at any cost. And trust me, there is a cost. It's called federal funding. There is a cost. If you follow the money, there is a cost. So thank you again. Everybody have a great weekend, and I will be making another video soon, and I'll let you know how that goes. Or what that topic will be, actually. I'm not quite sure. It might be social emotional learning. It might be one of the things in the Oprah request that I submitted. Who knows? But I will make another video. When it'll be, I don't know. But I want to take my time and make sure that I get my data correct. And I want to make sure that I have my facts correct. And again, anything that I say in these videos is to the best of my knowledge. And I have spent hours and hours and hours doing research on all this. I have dedicated hours to dealing with the principal and the superintendent and even the teacher, trying to get straight answers. I'm not getting straight answers. They don't even answer the questions. They go around in circles. So I will continue pressing until I get the information that I need. And I encourage all of you to start looking into these things, because you might not like me. You might not agree with me, and that is totally acceptable. But if you have not educated yourself on the topics that I'm talking about, then your opinion is irrelevant. You need to know what you're talking about. I do. I've spent hours researching, and I'm only about 4 months into this, and my brain hurts. But for the sake of my son, trust me, I will not quit until I am satisfied, until there is transparency and families know what's going on in their children's classrooms. So that's that. Thank you again for tuning in, and there will be more videos to come. Have a great weekend, everybody.